Friday at Vivian's party. How you doing?
Oh, okay, can I?
It's so nice to meet you. Come on. So you can see Dad in action tonight? Just don't do it like the kids did. And I had them come over my house and make
Just the writing. The little writing. I had went on Friday for like 4 hours. For 2 weeks I haven't worked.
Oh my
2
God.
weeks.
That's okay. It's not like that.
I have the space. But this is 2 weeks. Committee meetings.
Mike O'Neill.
Like if you moved it forward a little bit.
You're in my.
I know. I moved you.
Change the order.
If Sue can't make it,
Did that work?
not remove the jobs earlier?
No.
Yeah,
For
we're
John,
going
they
to.
did change, but Sue needs to sit on the end just for tonight.
John said he is.
No, I was just confused. But I'm so easily confused with the big question.
Helps that it's raining. Not so many people.
Stand up.
That in games.
Okay, I'll call the City Council meeting for January 8th, 2018 to order. And roll call, please.
Councilmember Martin? Here. Councilmember O'Neill? Here. Councilmember Degree?
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Vaterlas?
Here.
Mayor Keener?
Here. And let's see,
To the flag.
by yours truly. Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, there was no closed session. And then we have been requested to alter the agenda because Sue Vaterlas is not quite on death's door, but she's pretty sick. And so we're going to have number 8 come first. Is that the only one? Yeah, okay. We'll have number 8, the City Council liaison and committee assignments first, and then we'll proceed onward with the normal order of business. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay,
Special presentations?
Oh.
yeah.
I'll make a motion to move item number 8 before special presentations.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Sorry.
And that passes 5-0. Okay. And here's the, so, does anybody want to change any of the,
Mayor Keener, I'll just jump in with a real brief staff report.
oh, okay.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Mayor, council members. Each year, the council reviews the liaison and committee assignments at the first meeting in January. Due to the reorganization of the City Council, it will be necessary to make appropriate changes and approve the revised list. Attached is the 2017 City Council liaison and committee assignments for council to review, discuss, and modify for calendar year 2018. Please note that some committees do not have alternates while others do. The ultimate decision on all assignments, except those made by CCAG or other legislative bodies as noted, is at the council's discretion.
Okay, thank you for that. And do I have any comments? I mean, does anybody want to change anything?
I'm good.
I would like to serve as the CCAG rep. I'm sure there might be other people who want to do that too.
Yeah, so what I envisioned was myself as the CCAG rep and possibly you as the alternate.
Okay. I think the continuity is good, and
Does that,
also I go there anyway from 5:30 because I'm on the CCAG legislative committee,
okay,
which is an appointed committee.
that's good. That's good. And we'll have to discuss, well, first of all, we'll have to memorialize this with a vote. Do I have a motion?
I move that John Keener is CCAG rep and Sue Vaterlaus liaison, alternate, sorry.
And Sue Degree second. And vote? Okay, and that passes 5-0. And we'll have to communicate about the meeting this week, because you may not be up for it at all. Yeah, okay. Are there any other changes that
Let's see.
anybody is dying to make?
I'm good with all, but we have to be careful that we have an alternate, because each of the ones I'm on want an alternate, and they press for that as soon as possible.
Yeah, and I think I'm the alternate for most of them.
Okay.
And actually, a lot of them don't know me as an alternate, but they just sort of take my word for it if I turn up. Anybody else? No?
I'm
Okay.
happy with the ones I'm on.
All right.
I have a question. We had one that the San Mateo County Domestic Violence Council, is that one that's chosen by the county, or?
It's chosen by the county. They had the meeting last month.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's not one of ours just sitting there with nobody, okay. All right, thank
right, right. I think,
I'm like 90% sure, because.
yeah, no, it's the Council of Cities that does it, yeah.
Yeah.
TA. We can't assign someone to the TA either.
No,
Right.
that's
Right.
not up to us.
Okay, well, that's it for that item.
We have to vote for all of them.
We have to vote.
All the rest of them. We just voted for one.
We do, huh? Okay, well, do I have a
I
motion
make
for
a
that?
motion that the committee assignments as discussed and all alternates are appointed.
Second.
Oh, 2018 City Council liaison.
Yes, but as reflected on the 2017
Oh, okay, as reflected on the 2017
council
City
liaison
Council thing.
assignments,
Okay,
except for CCAG.
right, okay.
Second.
Okay, please vote. All right, and that passes 5-0.
Passes 5-0.
You're going to vote now
Hit me if you see me doing that.
for the people? That's funny.
That comes
Go
later.
right into the
Sue, did you want to go now, or? Oh, okay.
You're going to hang around a little bit? Oh, you're feeling better, huh? Okay.
Don't pass out next to me.
Okay. Next on the agenda is a special presentation. It's the Library Annual Report by Julie Finklang.
Good evening, Mayor Keener and City Council members, and Happy New Year. It is my honor and my privilege to present to you the San Mateo County Library's fiscal year 2016-2017 annual report with the theme, as you can see, Transforming Lives and Transforming Communities. Okay. So just a little bit of background. The San Mateo County Libraries was first established as a county-free library in 1912, and the Library Joint Powers Authority was formed in 1999. The district service area is comprised of our 11 member cities, as well as the unincorporated areas of the county, represented by the darker blue areas on the map, which covers 351 square miles. Approximately 283,000 people live within our service area, and more than 165,000 have library cards. Here's an overview of our statistics. You can see 65% of residents have a library card. We had over 2 million library visits in the last fiscal year. Well over 300,000 program attendees, over 12,000 programs, almost 40,000 hours of volunteer time, over 3 million circulation of 638,000 items. And we've also now reached 2 million digital items in our collection. And we're most proud of our patron satisfaction, 93%, and our employee engagement, 91%. I believe we have one of the highest employee engagement ratings of all county departments. Here's what the year looked like in Pacifica, with circulating over 250,000 items, almost 150,000 library visitors, and over 17,000 program attendees. We have some pictures there of one of our popular storytime programs and our librarian Jessica showing us some new items in the collection. San Mateo County Libraries prides ourselves on ensuring equitable access. The library has successfully continued to offer programs and services that eliminate barriers to success and support special needs in all of our communities. 65% of our youth population participated in the summer learning program last summer, and approximately 750 children were enrolled in our Big Lift summer camps. Both of these programs have seen positive results. 84% of families that participated in the summer learning program reported that they learned more and read more, and our camp results show that programs help kids gain an average of 1 month of reading skills, which is a great success for reversing summer learning loss. In our libraries, creative programs such as the award-winning Talk, Read, Sing helps families create language-rich home environments, which we had that program last year, and we'll be bringing it back to Pacifica again. And our Toyota Family Learning focuses on family engagement. Last year, we also introduced fine-free kids cards, so now kids no longer have to pay any library fines on items that they may forget to return by the due date, and continue to expand our take-home technology, laptop and mobile hotspots collections due to extremely high demand. We added over 200 Wi-Fi hotspots, bringing the total collection to 750. We are also now offering in-library laptop vending machines. They will be installed in Pacifica libraries in the spring. Growing a culture of learning means offering hands-on programs for all ages. So for some examples, last year for adults of hands-on learning program were our painting programs, which have been one of our most successful new program offerings. We offer them monthly now, and the pre-registration is always full. We always have a waiting list. We do seasonal crafts like wreaths and greeting cards. We did some clay sculpting, and we did all kinds of classes, including cooking, canning, meditation, gardening, and hiking. We offered docent programs to guide people about popular local art exhibits, book clubs, music programs, and medication drop-off programs, which has been very helpful with the community when they need to dispose of medication in an appropriate manner. We also have offered discussion programs and workshops on community issues such as housing, education, health insurance, climate change, marijuana, and fake news. For our families, we've had hands-on learning programs, including monthly maker programs, Minecraft workshops, arts and crafts, story times for all ages. And in our story times, I especially want to call out our musical story time that we offer at the Sanchez Library on Friday mornings, which receives consistently one of the largest audiences of all story times throughout the county in one of the smallest buildings. Our after-school hangout, very popular with our elementary and middle school kids, where they have snacks, do homework, play games, and do crafts and other activities. And our very popular movie nights, which are completely free, as all our programs are, and include popcorn and snacks. Also, ukulele classes and fun programs like magic shows, puppet shows, juggling, and bubbles. As far as materials and collections, this past fiscal year, we expanded our collections to include more materials that reflect our community's wide-ranging interests and learning styles. New innovative collections include hiking backpacks, which are equipped with a compass, field guides, trail maps, and binoculars to promote healthy lifestyles. This program was piloted right here in Pacifica and included a programming partnership with the San Mateo County Park Rangers and a kickoff at the San Pedro Valley Park. We also debuted energy and water-saving toolkits, which promote climate change awareness and do-it-yourself home energy tips and tools. Very, very popular. And we're now lending the ukuleles, which include learning materials and programs. And we have a brand new streaming service called Hoopla that offers access to movies, TV shows, music, ebooks, and audiobooks. In addition to this, we had a broad expansion of all our digital collections, which, as you saw on a previous slide, resulted in now a total collection of 2 million items. Our services beyond buildings, we began our first interactive mobile learning space, which has launched this year and has now traveled to all of our communities. The Lookmobile, which was designed in partnership with the Exploratorium to activate our outdoor spaces and promote inquiry-based learning. Additionally, 5 book bikes and 2 outreach vehicles have been added. You can see these highly visual mini libraries at community events throughout the county promoting libraries as fun, welcoming places. The book bikes won Editor's Choice at the Maker Faire. In Pacifica, we piloted bookmobile service every other Friday at the Manor Shopping Center and the Fairmont Shopping Center, and the Lookmobile visited in February and September. We especially pride ourselves on our outreach, both as a system and here in Pacifica. So as you can see, in addition to our bookmobile service, we do outreach throughout the community. We like to focus especially on seniors. We go twice a month to the community center lunches and once a month to the Ocean View Apartments. The community center lunches, this is our second year, and Ocean View Apartments, we just started this year, and both programs have been very successful. We also participate in special annual events throughout Pacifica, including Fog Fest, Touch a Truck, Kids and Cops, Outside the Lines, the Eco Fest, the Rockaway Beach Tree Lighting, and the Farmers Market. We work hard to create inviting and flexible spaces. We have continued the exciting efforts to build new libraries in Half Moon Bay, which is under construction, scheduled to open this year, Atherton, construction starting this year, Brisbane, construction also starting this year, and East Palo Alto, which is in the process of completing a needs assessment. In Pacifica, the Library Advisory Committee has been working diligently to develop and evaluate a list of potential sites for a new Pacifica library, as well as considering options for allowing the Sanchez Library to remain open in some capacity. The Library Advisory Committee will be summarizing this work in a recommendation to City Council that is currently scheduled to be presented at the January 22nd meeting, which means I will see you again in 2 weeks. Finally, we're very proud of the awards and recognitions we have received both as a system and in the Pacifica Libraries. The San Mateo County Library won the prestigious American Library Association 2017 John Cotton Dana Award, which is given to libraries for outstanding public relations. And we received this reward for our rebranding campaign, Open for Exploration, which unified our 12 community libraries and many programs into a shared vision and brand. In addition, the Urban Libraries Council awarded the San Mateo County Libraries their Innovation Award for our Big Lift Inspiring Summer Programs, which serves low-income children and reverses summer learning loss. Pacifica, we had a great year for awards and recognition. We did a presentation at the California Library Association, and I should note that 3 of these awards celebrate the partnership between the Sanchez Library Garden and the Pacifica Resource Center. So the first one is the presentation we did at the California Library Association Conference. We also had Pacifica Magazine recognize the garden in an article, Growing at the Library, which you can see the cover here. And finally, last but not least, we got our Chris Vance, our staff member who has been the person primarily responsible for the library garden since its inception, won the KPIX Jefferson Award for Community Impact. And there's a little video that he does, it's on our website, and it's also on the KPIX website, so if you're interested, you can go there and watch it. In addition, 3 of our staff members, Paula Texera, Chris Vance, and Sharon Hagberg, won the Pitch It $5,000 grant for the best new library service idea. And this is where all SMCL staff compete, and the winning idea receives a $5,000 grant to implement the program, and this was the Get Outdoors at the Library hiking backpacks that I talked about a little bit earlier. Also, our our Pacifica Library staff member, Christina Olson, has been working for several years running book clubs at the Youth Services Center for incarcerated youth, and this year the probation department gave her the Affiliate of the Year award for her dedicated work on those book clubs. I would like to now take the opportunity to thank the Pacifica Friends of the Library for their ongoing support of library programs and services, the Pacifica Library Foundation for its ongoing support of the new library project and the library, the Library Advisory Committee, who've given many hours of their time towards the new library project, the City Council, you, city staff, our JPM members, and our many volunteers. And finally, I just want to dedicate this presentation to the memory of my esteemed colleague, Tom Ball, who we still miss and will continue to miss very much. Thank you very much.
Are there any questions or comments? Let's see. Sue DeGree.
Thank you very much. That was very impressive, and thank you to our local librarians and all the wonderful credits they got for us. And that's a lot of hard work, and appreciate everything. Thank you so much, and for acknowledging Tom Ball.
Thank you.
And Mike O'Neill.
I'm the liaison for the JPA for the libraries, and I just wanted to say it is very exciting what they are planning to do, because they're just, what Julie just talked about is like the tip of the iceberg. The Maker Square, which they're looking to put in there, will be actually a supplement and help people that like want to learn how to knit, crochet, how to repair an appliance is all going to be part of it if we have the facilities. And it's really an exciting concept that a lot of libraries are moving forward with and are able to do. I also wanted to comment on the big lift. Having been on the school board, one of the biggest challenges teachers have is kids forgetting during the 2-month break what they learned the previous year, and it's almost the teacher has to relearn it for them. But with the big lift, I believe there was an actual study that showed that learning, I forget the exact term for it, but that gap doesn't happen with the big lift. Am I correct, or?
Yes, I think it's summer learning loss is the term.
Yeah, that's it, summer
Yes.
learning loss, yeah. And that the kids that were in that thing didn't have to start at square one again. They were actually up to square 2 or 3 because they didn't have that learning loss. And I think it's also exciting is a lot of those kids are in the free and reduced lunch, and because the library is there and open and has the facilities, they can take and they continue to get their lunch, which might be the only meal they get, or one of the 2 meals they get that's nutritious there. And I think that's quite good and healthy. Unfortunately, certain individuals want to cut the funding for that program, and he that shall not be named. But I think it's a really good program that the county is going to actually look to see if they can step into and cut that funding gap. And I just do want to commend the great work you do. The Lookmobile is, they were bringing them into some of the libraries, and they couldn't get the adults out of them because the geodesic dome or something that they put in one library, they couldn't get the adults out for the kids to get in there and play. So it was really cool, and now all ages use it. So congratulations to the entire staff there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Deirdre.
Thanks, Julie. This is a great presentation. It's nice to see all the recognition with the awards and everything. Thanks for letting us know about that. A lot of these people are volunteers out in our community too, not just, hard workers in their day jobs. So it's nice to see that recognition. Thanks for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. And I just had a question about the bookmobiles. Every other Friday, which Fridays of the month?
I don't know off the top of my head what the
gosh,
next one is.
okay.
I think it's this Friday, but I'm not 100% positive. But it's
So-
on our website. You
Okay,
can just go to our website. Because they did make a little bit of a change to the schedule, so yeah, I should have reviewed that before I came in, but I did not. But the schedule right now is 12 to 2 at the Manor Shopping Center, and then 3 to 6 at the Fairmont Shopping Center.
I just wanted to make one more comment.
yeah.
I also wanted to make a mention that the town of Millbrae suffered a loss with not only with Tom Ball passing, but also their community center burnt to the ground. And the library was able to step in and provide a lot of the services that used to be housed at the community center, and then they also were using, I think, a middle school for some of the programs. But I just wanted to commend them that they were flexible enough to step in and do it at a moment's notice.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie.
Okay, good evening.
Okay, next is the consent calendar. And first, do any council members want to pull any of the items or have comments on them or anything of that nature. And I have no yellow cards for comments from the public, and I don't see anybody jumping up to the podium. So do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I move that we approve the consent calendar as stated.
Okay,
I'll second.
all righty. Please vote. And that passes 4-0. Moving right along, come to oral communications. And so this is for the public to address the city council on issues that are not on the agenda. And there's a few guidelines in the agenda that is available in the back of the room. I won't read it. Basically, it's, no profanity, et cetera. So I have 2 cards.
All oral.
All oral. Oh, boy. Okay. I'll call 3 names so that you can, sort of line up or be ready behind the first person. Jim Hildberg and Victor Spano and Anna Dominski.
Are we ready to go?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Sure.
thank you very much. I'm Jim Hildberg. I live on Aspen Drive, and I have the Silicon Segway store in Rockaway Beach. I wanted to talk for a couple of minutes about Rockaway Beach. Rockaway Beach is the center of Pacifica. It's the geographic center. It's also the center for visitation. We like to think of ourselves as a visitation city or city for visitors, and people come to Pacifica and they find Rockaway Beach, and they stay in Rockaway Beach most of the time. Most of our hotels are in Rockaway Beach. Not all, but most of them are. And I discovered today that there are 40, count them 40, businesses in Rockaway Beach. I didn't realize there were so many until I counted them. So Rockaway Beach is kind of like our center. And the funny thing is, it's got the worst sign of any of our several shopping centers. It's embarrassing to have that old, beat-up, rotten sign sitting out in front advertising Rockaway Beach. I'm sure that many people can't even find Rockaway Beach because it's a little tiny sign down low and it's not even lighted at night. And we're probably losing business because we don't have a better sign. Last year, people recognized that problem, and they proposed a sign. Talked to a professional sign builder, and the gentleman came up with a nice sign, and it cost about $60,000, and people thought that was nice, but it wasn't good enough, and so it did not get accepted and did not go into effect. In the last week or so, we have had another new proposal for a new sign that only costs 1/3 of the original sign. This one's $20,000 or so. It's a very high quality sign. It's lighted. It's classy. It's modern without looking obvious. It's just a very high quality piece of work. People who looked at this sign, at this proposal, have actually pledged their own money, and I'm talking about the merchants in Rockaway Beach have pledged their own money to come up with this $20,000, and I think we haven't even had a campaign yet, and there's already people jumping in on this proposal. The purpose of my speech to you tonight is to ask for your support for that sign. Yeah, I presume that it'll take some planning approvals and whatever else there is, and I don't know. But this is a bargain, ladies and gentlemen, and we need to do it. And thank you for your help.
Thank you, Jim. Victor Spano.
Good evening, council members. My topic also is the Rockaway Beach sign. I don't want to repeat some of Jim's remarks. I'll omit them from my speech. We talked to the planning department and were quoted $6,000 in planning fees in order to proceed with the sign, and also that the city more or less relinquish its ownership of the sign. The sign was installed over 20 years ago by the former redevelopment agency, and it's on land owned by Caltrans that the city rents. And it's our understanding that the city wants to extinguish that and have another party own a replacement sign there. There's no one that's willing to do that. The Chamber of Commerce is not going to do it. The Hotel Business Improvement District is not going to do it. So more or less, I'm asking the city to accept the donation of a sign and waive all planning fees so it can happen. So that's my first point. My next point is I'd like to ask that the city building official or someone from the fire department go take a look at that sign. It was storming pretty badly this morning, and I could see that the sign was rocking back and forth in the wind. It's a hazard. It's jerry-rigged to stay up. I don't know who did it, but you guys own the sign. If the sign collapses in a strong wind and hits a car or a pedestrian, it's going to be catastrophic for whoever it runs into and for the city. So please, have a building inspector look at that sign, and I'm sure they're going to say you got to demolish it because it's just not in any good condition. It's completely rotted by the elements. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Victor. Anna Dominski.
Good evening.
Followed by Larry Bothan.
Hi, my name is Anna Dominski. I live in Pacifica in Rockaway, and I want to talk about the jet noise. There are hundreds of jets flying over Pacifica on any given day, verified by maps and reports that I requested from the San Francisco Noise Abatement Office. The report also verifies jets flying ahead practically every 2 to 3 minutes from 5:45 a.m. to midnight, and loud, noisy international flights waking up Pacificans at different times between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. every day for the last 2 years. After 2 years of attending San Francisco roundtable meetings to deal with the noise and the pollution issues, the FAA released a report in November 2017 that said it was feasible that many flights over Pacifica would resume flying over the ocean instead of down the spine of Pacifica and other coastal towns. We know that the ocean is less than a mile from where the jets are flying over land, and it is not a huge hardship for jets to resume flying over the ocean. I ask that City Council make sure that the FAA keeps on track with this future commitment. I really don't trust the FAA. They have a way of not believing that there is an issue when hundreds and hundreds of jets are flying over. Meanwhile, other groups and citizens and council members and congresspeople in Santa Cruz fought their jet noise problems and won. In August of this year, the FAA will resume old flights over Santa Cruz County, and the community will once again enjoy the peace and quiet they had before the noisy next-gen flight technology was implemented in the Bay Area in 2015. Pacifica needs to get their act together, and it starts with the City Council. What exactly has the council done? Writing one letter to the FAA is not going to work. At this point, we need to file a lawsuit, and that has to be a public nuisance lawsuit. If every town affected by the jet noise in our coastal communities puts some money towards the lawsuit, we can get it going. If Pacifica does nothing, the problem will only go worse. We can get creative. We can create a GoFundMe account. The FAA will not like the negative publicity, and it will definitely get it. Just filing the suit will get the FAA's attention and get our cause known to other areas in California and the United States. Who knows? Maybe there's a lawyer out there who will take the case, make some money, and get some incredible publicity for the cause. Pacifica can do this and become known for fighting the FAA and not just lying down and let the FAA walk all over us. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Larry Bothan is up next, and Karen Rosenstein is after him.
Hi, I'm Larry Bothan. I live in Rockaway Beach Avenue, actually on Tolia Terrace at the end of Rockaway Beach Avenue. So we're on the far eastern end of Rockaway. I'm about a quarter mile from that spine of Pacifica that all the planes fly over. If a jet were to flush its toilet flying over, it would land on my deck. So, we've been really impacted by the noise from all these jets. What I'd like to know is why hasn't the City of Pacifica reached out to other coastal communities, and to Brisbane, San Mateo, Woodside, Half Moon Bay, Moss Beach, all of these communities, we're all impacted by this jet noise. And we really feel nothing is being done for us. And I don't see why our city attorney can't do something about this. Isn't that why we have an attorney on staff? Okay, I guess that's a rhetorical question. So, in any case, the more sound measurements and other metrics that have been taken, none of this is going to fix this. 3.5 million complaints about airport noise from SFO in 2016 are all the metrics that we need. It's time our local government started representing our interests against the FAA. We've had enough meetings, letters, committees with exactly 0 results. Now it's time for action. Let's have our city attorney join with our other neighboring cities' attorneys and seek an injunction against the FAA. This is the only thing they're going to understand. Otherwise, they will stonewall us just as they have every other community. So you got to lawyer up. And once that's been done, this has already been done in Phoenix, and it's been successful, as Anna mentioned, in Santa Cruz. There's no reason we can't do it here. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Karen Rosenstein, and up after her is Tony Dominski.
Good evening, City Council, staff. I definitely ditto the comments from my neighbors. I'm on the other half of Troglia from Larry, and his comments definitely ring true for me. I really would like to mention another aspect to this, in that last spring I did several hikes up to the bench where you get to watch the falls back in San Pedro Park. I would sit there 30 minutes at a time. Easily 15 airplanes would go over in that time frame, very audibly disturbing the noise back in what is considered to be one of the jewels of not only our city, but also our county here as well, too. So I would like to mention, when we talk about this, is that not only is it impacting us in our homes, but it's also impacting us in areas of supposed peace and nature. The other thing I'd like to mention is that I disagree with Anna. I have proof with me right here. The planes basically start at 1 a.m. This morning, there was at least 3 flights to Hong Kong, a couple to various places in Mexico and more. There was one at 2:45 this morning. This is getting ridiculous. They start up, 5:45, 6 o'clock or so in the morning. And man, it just really makes it hard if you're trying to get like that extra 20 minutes in the morning. So if I could encourage the City Council to please consider doing something, this is really getting tiresome. As I've mentioned on Nextdoor and more, when we bought our house here 20 years ago, I stood out on that deck that we have on multiple occasions. We visited that house multiple times to see if there was airplane noise, because we used to live underneath the runway at Moffett Field, and that was one of our criteria. We didn't want that type of noise. So finding our place here in Pacifica, near the airport, if we needed to hop a plane, as we have, to go back east, but not have to listen to the airplane noise, was really a great find for us. And these last 2 years have been really hell for me. So please, we need to do something here. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Tony Dominski, and following him is Tiger Jazz Big Stick.
Good evening, members of the council, staff, and people in the audience. My name's Tony Dominski. I also live on Rockaway, contingent here. I'm also here to speak about the jets. what everybody said, that the consistency of these things are the main culprit. It's not decibels, it's the consistency and the timing. We moved here from San Francisco, like a lot of people did, 18 years ago. And, you know, we loved city life. It was noisy. We dealt with it. Then we wanted something better. We wanted a garden. We wanted to enjoy our garden. My wife is a wonderful landscaper. We built a beautiful garden. And we can't go outside now in the garden without putting headphones on, or I have Sonos speakers out there now, because and it's not that they're 50 decibels. It's the consistency of this. If I did that throughout this meeting every 2 minutes, you guys would throw me out of here, because that's what the irritation is. Also the pollution. And a lot of people go, some people say, oh, that doesn't bother me, or you're exaggerating. I'm not exaggerating. You know, we have proof of that, of the incessant sound that happens. Also, the fact that if some people don't hear it, it's affecting Pacifica, and we have a resource here, just like we have the beautiful ocean and the trails and the paths. We have peace and quiet, or at least we used to, and if we lose this, it's just like somebody throwing dog shit and not cleaning it up. We're getting shit on by the FAA, and those people, hey, they're here to protect us, right? But the problem that I see is that the majority, if not all, of the members of the FAA have allegiance or have affiliations with the airlines. And the thing is not just, I'll wrap it up, it's not just the consistency and the incessant, it's the fact that they're flying lower now. We've clocked planes that came in at 4,000 feet. They're supposed to have a deck of 10,000 feet. This was the other night at like 2 in the morning. It was 4,500 feet. And that's what's the problem. And that pushes pollution over us too. So you guys got to really pay attention to this, and we have to pay attention to it as a city to protect our resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Tiger Jazz Big Stick, followed by Bill Bray.
Plus, if you can hear it in San Pedro Valley Park, it's also affecting our wildlife. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. I'm Tiger Jazz Twirls Big Stick of Pacifica. I was selling items, as I do on a daily basis, and as a newspaper was coming through my check stand, I glanced at the articles, as I often do. And as I was glancing at this week's Tribune, I was struck that every article on the front page had the term homeless in the title. Pacifica homelessness soars, homeless probe at Millwood, working homeless, no place to rent. So this got me thinking about things we've been discussing for years at this point. And I just had some suggestions. One, that in order to keep people housed during this housing crisis, we begin the hard, difficult, probably years-long work of beginning affordable housing. That way the working homeless maybe have a chance at getting a home. Those people who currently are not homeless can perhaps stay housed. Indirectly, proposal I made many times before, and to the council's credit, the Resource Center has been funded by the city to the tune of $83,000 for quite a while. But a few years back, that money was taken out of the general fund, and it's still been supplied, but there's been a little bit of a question mark as to whether or not from year to year it's going to continue to be coming through. So I just wanted to advocate for putting the PRC back into the general fund and leaving it there so that the Resource Center doesn't have to worry about that as they continue doing their stellar work with homelessness issues, et cetera. And then last but not least, last week I think it was when I was reading the Tribune, I read an article that said something about after the Measure C stuff wrapped up, and those folks who had their rents raised, still had their rents raised, there was a mention in an article that Samcar was willing to work with y'all and reach out to the landlords. And I think there was a mention that that hadn't happened yet. And I just wanted to suggest going into a new year, these are issues that have an effect on everybody in our community, all stakeholders, realtors included, have an interest in finding equitable solutions. And I don't know what Sam Carr's proposal was. I don't know if it was a good proposal. I don't know if it would work. But it occurs to me that if we have an opportunity to have friendly approaches where we're working together that might solve an issue, we should start looking into what that might look like, even if it's an off chance it could work. Thank you.
Thank you, Tiger Jazz. Bill Bray, followed by Tony Williams.
Mayor Keener, members of the council, good evening. Apparently, I'm part of the Rockaway posse that showed up here tonight. I've been a resident of Pacifica and Rockaway Beach for over 24 years. And for me, that's a record. I've never lived in any one place for even half that amount of time. But I think it speaks to how much myself and my family love living in this town. We moved here because of its aesthetic beauty, and because the air is clean with the ocean breeze, and because, most of all, it was quiet. I could come home from a hectic day working in San Francisco, and I could actually relax, sit in my backyard, quite honestly, have an extra dry martini, and read my book, and just let all the tension flow away. That hasn't been the case now for well over 5 years. As has been mentioned, the city of Phoenix has filed a lawsuit. They won, and according to a recent release by the FAA, they're actively working to roll back the Next Gen program in Phoenix as we speak. That's a big move. Here in Pacifica, however, folks, things are actually getting worse. The frequency of flights, the intensity of the flights because of the lower altitudes in which they're flying, are making our lives even more difficult. Sue's well aware of this. She's been very involved in this for years. I would like to suggest two things to the City Council. The first is, I understand that there's a letter that's been being worked on for the last several months or so, an open letter from the City Council. I would encourage folks to finish that letter and get it out there, because folks in our community just don't know what our City Council is doing for us. And I'd like to see that change. So that's one thing that we can do. Take a stand as a city. Use your power to make that happen. Secondly, I would suggest that the City Council appoint an ad hoc committee of citizens to deal with this issue. People who can research this, attend meetings, and liaise with committees that have already been established in other communities in our area. Half Moon Bay, Brisbane, Palo Alto come to mind. Let's consolidate the power that we have, because therein lies our ability to change what is clearly, at least according to the U.S. Court of Appeals in District of Columbia, a capricious decision by the FAA. I don't know the value. I'm not an aeronautical engineer, but I do know that I would like to see Pacifica get back to the way it was, one of the main reasons why we moved here, to regain the peace and quiet for which we have become famous. Thank you, folks, very much.
Thank you, Bill. Next up is Tony Williams, and he is followed by Peter Grace.
Hi, good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. I'd like to thank you. I'm here as a representative of the Pacifica business community. My wife and I have...
Can you put your mic up or lean into it, something like that?
It's better? Yeah. Okay. My wife and I have been business owners in Pacifica now for going on 4 years. And we've been very active in the community. And we have done everything possible to support the community in every way. And we have recently decided to make some changes in our business. And we've decided to go in a direction of opening a cannabis wellness center. And we've recently applied for the applications. And we were actually the first applications to be applied for in Pacifica. And we understand that the process takes a while. The state process takes about 6 months. And We'd like to know why, though, isn't the city issuing any temporary permits in the meantime? I know the state is issuing 120-day permits during their 6-month process to allow people to still operate during that period of waiting to receive their licenses. And I know for the city, that would be a significant amount of revenue that the city would be getting 6% of that business over a period of 6 months waiting for those permits, especially if you're talking, if I'm not mistaken, it's a total of 6 dispensaries that the city's allowing. So is there a reasoning behind the temporaries or not allowing the temporaries, or has that just not been considered? I know Mike and I had spoken about that earlier.
Just for your clarification, being you're not an agendized item, we can't comment on any of the oral communications or answer
Can I do
questions.
this, Mike? Can I make a motion then, or at least that a motion be made that the chamber make a motion to consider temporary permits for the cannabis permits?
No. I'm sorry. Yeah, a suggestion would be acceptable.
Make a suggestion?
Yeah.
So what would be the next step after that?
Are we getting into a dialogue here, Michelle?
At this point, because this item is not on the agenda, the council really cannot engage in any sort of deliberation or back and forth. But your comments will be noted, and the city manager has noted them, and to the extent that there's anything that we can do, city manager will be reviewing that.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tony. And Peter Grace. And that's the last card I have.
Can you hear me? My name is Peter Grace. I'm a resident of Pacifica at 200 Lakeview. I'm temporarily here for a month from Brisbane. Sue and maybe John Keener will remember me that I'm very interested in the injustice of aircraft noise dumped on the less wealthy communities. I've been involved for at least the last 8 years, and it's been a constant topic at the city council meetings in Brisbane. And indeed, the city council got fed up with us taking up valuable council time complaining about noise, and they formed an ad hoc noise subcommittee, of which I'm a part, with 2 city council members. It's been very productive, and it's been extremely helpful in tying the political intelligence of the council members with the passion of the injustice. I hope you will consider looking at the Brisbane ad hoc subcommittee model to address the noise issue, and work with other affected cities to right the current injustice. And you might ask, well, why not use the round table? The San Francisco round table has not been the friend to the affected citizens. And I'll give you an example I was looking at today. In 2010, there was a grand jury report published about giving the round table more teeth. Maybe some of you have seen it. The number one recommendation, the very first recommendation given, was to put the noise monitor equipment under the flight paths. Pretty simple, isn't it? You measure it where it's the worst. However, the current noise monitoring equipment is not under the flight paths. It's in historical places. It's like the post offices in the States are where they used to be, where the population centers were, and not where they're needed now. And there's been no public effort to move the monitors, and only efforts to tell the affected cities to buy their own monitors. I think this is a total injustice that I look upon you as a city to take up, as well as forming an ad hoc committee, because basically the round table has not been there affecting us to represent our citizens whom they're meant to represent. It's for you to draw the dots as to why this has happened. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. And I have no other cards. I don't see anybody jumping up to the podium, so that's it for oral communications. On to council communications. Do I have any? Yes, Sue Degree.
I thank all of you public for everything, but especially for the airport to come forth. And I've been going back and forth with the city manager and mayor, and I did not invite all these people. I did not send an SOS for them to come, but I'm very happy that you came. It has been on our agenda that in January, so we're scheduled for January 22nd. And the letter with teeth, and so I've seen I gave my stab at it, and it was edited and made very tough, I would say. I appreciate that. And what my concern is that the substance of the letter is what was reflected here and in past conversations here at the dais about what specific things can the city itself do. What specific things can we be pointed outward to whoever can do something? So we're talking again about some kind of substance and some force. So during the staff, if you wouldn't mind reiterating, because I want to make sure that what we have on our agenda for January 22nd is what we're expecting. So, and I'm saying that the substance of the letter will cover these kinds of things. So, I also think that this should be on the agenda of the Economic Development Committee because a couple of my concerns, the first one was, as has mentioned many times, is the health. The health impact, I don't want to dilute that in any way, shape, or form, but also in the course of this all, it becomes apparent that our economy is affected as well because it's affecting areas where people live and they're not going to want to live, and the word is passing. I heard it myself in the bakery one day. Somebody asked, I want to make sure if there's noise or not in the house we're proposing to buy, because if there's noise, we're not buying. So interpretation of that is it's affecting our economy from our houses, whether they can be sold or bought or lived in. The other one is, which was unknown to me, when the Phoenix report came out, they were found capricious, yes, I believe that is the word, and one of the areas was that they did not go to the cities or the roundtables for areas under historic areas and open space. So Pacifica is 50% open space. I sit on this roundtable. I recall nothing ever coming to the roundtable about open space anywhere. I've been here 15 years. I don't recall anything. I have no council decision, question, discussion, and as far as I know, no administrative whatever was done by a manager and a mayor. Nothing. So I would like to make sure that we don't overlook that. There have been people who, very reliable people who say that the Phoenix situation is not helpful to us. But on those couple issues there, I would like the city of Pacifica, because we are unique in our own way and we're worried about ourselves, that the open space thing, the taking of our housing, the taking of our tourism, our destination, because of the quiet and the peace, and basically number one is the safety and welfare of the health of our people. So those things are huge in my mind, have been huge in my mind, and we've been discussing this. So I hope we are really at that point where we can show the community that we get it, and we're looking at a smorgasbord of numerous things that we can do. So, and I haven't totally given up on the roundtable either. What?
Okay. Deirdre.
Thanks, everyone, for showing up tonight to talk about the airport noise. I haven't been vocal about it because I don't want to step on anyone's toes, but I've also been I'm following everything that's coming in, and I've participated in the letter writing as well and revisions, and we'll be talking about that the next couple weeks. I bought my house. I'm on Terra Nova, so I have a loud street anyway, but my kid points up to the sky in my house and says plane. It had started 6 months after I moved in, so this directly affects me as well, and our peace. And I've got video from other community members in San Pedro County Creek listening to the beautiful creek, and then enter airplane. It's super disruptive, and I think we also need to bring in, San Mateo County, GGNRA, and this is, like Sue said, an economic issue as well as a health and safety issue. And we'll make sure that all that gets included and that the letter is strong. But I also think that an ad hoc committee is something we definitely should consider. Moving on, Pacifica Beach Coalition announced their 2018 events, and the first two that are coming up is a surf movie fundraiser. It's always a fun event in conjunction with the Pedro Point Surf Club and Pacifica's Environmental Family, but it's our Earth Day fundraiser. So there's two showings start on February 9th. You can get your tickets at Sunlight, at NorCal, and I think Traveler, also online at pacificabeachcoalition.org. And April 21st, Saturday, April 23rd, we're celebrating Earth Day. Other than that, I don't have anything. Thanks.
And Mike O'Neill.
Yeah, December government kind of shuts down countywide, so I don't have anything either except to say is I agree with the speakers that the roundtable is basically a eunuch. They haven't done much. They operate as milquetoast, and I'm thoroughly unimpressed. I do know that the mayor and Sue Degree will be meeting with the representative from Jackie Spear, along with the city manager sometime this week or next week. So I would also like, as part of the June 22nd meeting, a full report, an update on that meeting and what is happening. Because I have been, I was an advocate, and I think Sue said that they actually did hire, for $4,000, hire a lobbyist in Washington to start lobbying members of Congress, because this is an issue not just here in California, it's bipartisan. The people in New York are upset, the people in Phoenix, who are Republican probably, are upset, and it's a bipartisan issue, and I see that the roundtable finally hired a lobbyist to work Congress. Is that correct, Sue?
Well, we're going to join NOISE, N-O-I-S-E, and there is a lobbyist on, don't ask me what that stands for, national something. There is a lobbyist on that.
Well, I would really like to see the feasibility of working with the California League of Cities and having the roundtable, which most of the cities are members, have the league lobbyist also start working on it, okay? Because I think, this is a political question. The budget of the FAA is from Congress, and I think you kind of go where the heart is. And I think the League of Cities has people that do the same thing, and all, the League of Cities of Washington and Arizona, Nevada, et cetera, and work that network, and maybe we can try to get some results, because I actually do think it is, it's not even moving. The only thing moving are the planes, and I think the blood pressure of a lot of Pacificans. So I really want to hear the report from Ms. Kenworth, that, from Sue and John meeting, and I am happy to see that this is going to be on the agenda June 22nd. January 22nd, sorry.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate all of you turning out tonight in this terrible weather. The Phoenix situation, from what I understand, they had a successful lawsuit, and that was because there were deficiencies in their equivalent of the environmental impact report, and that those same issues do not pertain to our situation. So we have to find something different, and what that means is we have to find, if we're going to attempt to sue, we've got to have a basis. And as far as I know, there is no basis yet. But it doesn't mean we'll give up. The other thing was one speaker commented on the noise in San Pedro Valley Park. by the falls. And, you know, all the way along the ridge line is, you know, it's where the planes fly. And I hike in the park, you know, 3-4 times a week. And, you know, I just have to concur with her observations. You know, the enjoyment of the park is somewhat lessened by the planes flying over, and that has only started in the last 4 or 5 years. So if we can make something of that, good for us. As for the various proposals, we have heard them and taken note, and we'll address them more fully at the next meeting, I think. Now on to one other thing, also having to do with San Pedro Valley Park, and that is the Friends of the San Pedro Valley Park is presenting a talk by Jerry Davis, professor at San Francisco State, this Saturday at 3 o'clock, and it's on the San Pedro Creek watershed. What we know about the watershed from 20 years of research, his and his students. So, and that's at the visitor center in the park. So I'd invite anybody that's interested to show up for that. And that's all I have.
Something to that?
Sure.
For those of you that don't know, we're one of the few creeks there in San Pedro Valley that have steelhead, and steelhead are becoming very, very endangered. So we have a treasure here that we need to know more about. So. Wouldn't doubt it.
I wanted one follow-up. I did want to kind of follow up with John. The reason the Phoenix lawsuit was not applicable to this area is when Phoenix was having their building boom and incorporated and was moving along, they went to the airport and said, where are your flight paths? And so they zoned accordingly. Underneath the flight paths, they put warehouses, businesses, et cetera, and then the rest of the place, then the rest of them is where they built the residential homes. Unfortunately, when they did the next gen, just like us, they switched the flight paths over the homes. So that was kind of a breach of faith with the residents in the city of Phoenix. And that part, I guess they had to do an EIR for part of it. So I just wanted to kind of show, being we are already an established building peninsula, mixed commercials. I mean, if you look around Burlingame, South City, it's all industrial because of the airport. But now that they have changed it to the residential, it isn't similar because none of us actually went to the airport and asked them, what is your flight path? So I just wanted to kind of educate everybody on why Phoenix isn't necessarily applicable to here.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Staff communications.
Great, thank you, Mayor. Several points to make, and I'll just start off with the SFO overflight noise issues, and it was mentioned that, yes, indeed, this Wednesday we will be visiting Congresswoman Spears' office to talk to her staff experts about the latest and greatest information, and that'll provide a good knowledge base for us putting together the report for the January 22nd meeting is what we're shooting for. You know, depending on the input that we get from Spears' staff, but that's the goal, to talk about what the city can do and next steps in the comment letter that will return to the council for review. Just wanted to mention regarding the storm we're having, I'm told by Public Works Director Ocampo that our systems and our infrastructure is holding up well. Which is great news. However, there's a lot of rain anticipated for this week and more for tonight. And I know we have extra staff that are on duty tonight and those that would be on call in case we have any incidents. So we're always on heightened alert when there's this much rain.
I did also want to mention, because there have been questions about the cameras that are on the intersections of Highway 1 at Reina Del Mar and at Fassler Avenue. And as the council is aware, that's part of our intelligent in-sync monitoring, video monitoring system that is installed now, and we'll be hoping to make system improvements to the traffic flow at those intersections, and we'll be entering into a monitoring period where there's periodic tests on the effectiveness of that over the course of this next year, and we'll be reporting out periodically on what we're learning from that system. So those cameras on the intersections are not checking whether anyone is running red lights or anything. It's really an intelligent monitoring system for the traffic flow. Regarding cannabis, I wanted to mention that we are in the midst of implementing our ordinance and our application process, as some of the speakers mentioned, but because of the state law that went into effect on January 1st, we will also be putting together an FAQ for the website that really addresses information about what the state law changed, not our local ordinance stuff, but I figure that with all the questions about our local ordinance, people are going to also have basic questions about what state law changed or didn't change. So we're going to put up some information that the staff team has compiled regarding that. Also, last week had a productive meeting with representatives from the Army Corps of Engineers, as well as staff from Congresswoman Spears' office, to really talk about and brainstorm about potential federal funding sources that might exist and complexities related to them, related to the northern section of the seawall north of the pier along Beach Boulevard and the promenade. So that was a productive meeting. It was an opportunity for me to meet for the first time those representatives of those offices, and we'll be continuing that dialogue. I don't have any great news to report just from the one meeting. One more item relates to the Library Advisory Committee's work. The Library Advisory Committee has a final, not a final, but a meeting this week to finalize their advisory committee report that will be going to the council also at the January 22nd meeting. The draft report is posted on the city's website at this point. And I believe that concludes my comments.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Next up are items for consideration, and the first one is fiscal year 2017-2018 replacement of city vehicles. And Lorenzo.
Item 6.
Item 6, yes.
While Mr. Hines is getting the presentation dialed in, I wanted to kick off this item with a few introductory comments. Putting together the vehicle replacement schedule has been a long undertaking, and I wanted to thank Assistant City Manager Hines and Public Works Department staff who really leads the vehicle maintenance schedule, as well as all the departments for working over many months to bring this replacement schedule together for tonight. This is an important infrastructure maintenance item, and the recommendations I'm making involve some significant dollars, but for many years the city has not funded adequately replacement of vehicles, and as a result we've fallen very far behind, and I believe you'll see some visuals that indicate that. And so really the summary of this item is it's a recommended catch-up step for us to get back on a reasonable schedule of prudent practices for maintaining the investments that we make in vehicles so that the city can conduct its operations and serve the citizens of this community adequately. And Mr. Hines will go through those details.
Thank you. Thank you. Mayor Keener, members of the Pacifica City Council, my name is Lorenzo Hines. I'm the Assistant City Manager, and tonight I'm here to present the fiscal year 2017-18 replacement of city vehicles. What we hope to accomplish with this particular item is three things. We would like the authority to purchase 18 replacement vehicles and related vehicle preparation for a total of $871,500. We would also like the authority to surplus 20 vehicles with anticipated proceeds of $30,800, and we would like to schedule the 2017-18 motor pool replacement revenues into Fund 72. We had a little bit of infrastructure issues with the chair there. So it kept sinking, and I didn't intend it to sink. So I put together a slide presentation which kind of gives you a 30,000-foot level overview of what we're trying to do here and the reasons we're trying to do it. So the city replaces vehicles, trucks, and heavy equipment on an annual basis. These vehicle replacements are supported by annual contributions from the other city funds. Fund 72 is the motor pool replacement fund, and that's the fund by which, or from which, that we actually purchase these vehicles, trucks, and heavy equipment. On an annual basis, the user funds, as I'll call them, contribute dollars into Fund 72, so Fund 72 can make those purchases. The general fund is one of those user funds. Fund 18, the wastewater treatment enterprise fund, is also one of those user funds. When we were putting together the 17-18 budget, we delayed the scheduling of replacement vehicles to allow us to continue our review of the current replacement process. It needed a look-see and needed some refinements. The review yielded a number of changes, and the implementation of our new spreadsheet-based tool was the biggest change. And so what we have right now is a spreadsheet that allows us to track each piece of the inventory, allows us to track when the item was put into service, but it also allows us to track the department estimate on the life of the vehicle. We can also corroborate that estimated life with third-party documentation. From that point forward, we can calculate what needs to be collected in order to replace that piece of equipment or vehicle, and then we can also schedule out when that vehicle will be replaced. So in the spreadsheet tool, it has everything that I just mentioned, but on one side it lists from 2017 out to, I believe, 2037, and shows you every year which vehicles get replaced and how much we're expecting. So when it comes to putting together the 18-19 budget, I can already tell you there'll be 13 to 15 vehicles that we'll be bringing before you. And this spreadsheet is done with the department's input and Public Works input. Yes, sir.
Is that 13 to 15 vehicles in addition to these?
Yes.
Or,
yes.
So 13 to 15 in
So
addition
we are essentially catching up. This process is supposed to be annual, and that's the way it's supposed. This schedule should be presented with the budget. In every other city that I've been in, and it's always presented with the budget, because it's an expenditure plan, and so it should be presented with the master expenditure plan. Yes, sir.
So how many total vehicles do we have in Pacifica?
Ooh, I'm going to have to consult with the experts, Mr. Martin or Mr. Ocampo.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Van Ocampo. I'm the Director of Public Works. We have about 120 vehicles.
Wow. Okay.
So it's quite an impressive inventory. So we have the new spreadsheet tool, and again, that tool will be heavily affected by department input. It'll be managed by Public Works with input from finance as well. The second change that we've been able to bring to this system is the utilization of the state of California contracts for vehicle purchases. So the state contract allows us to have access to more dealers statewide, and also allows us to have access to more pricing options as well. So that, coupled with our normal procurement processes, just, again, it just makes things better for us because we have more options. Sir.
So we didn't take advantage of this before, I take it?
We didn't know.
Oh.
We didn't know. I made a call to the Department of General Services, and I was, being an ex-state employee, I was fully aware of the state contract, but I thought it was just for the state. So on a whim, basically, I said, let me call them and see if we can get access to these prices, because they're good prices, and there's dealers all over the city, all over the state. And so I asked the question, and they said there are a few cities that utilize it, so therefore we don't have an issue with it. So I guess sometimes it's all right to ask the question. So the vehicle replacement schedule has been completed for 17-18. And so what we're seeking is the purchase or lease of the authority to purchase or lease 18 replacement vehicles. And as you can see, the police are looking for 9 vehicles, North County Fire Authority, 1 vehicle, Public Works, wastewater, 4 vehicles, Public Works Field Services, 1 vehicle, Planning Department, 1 vehicle, City Hall Pool, 1 vehicle, Parks, Beaches, and Rec, 1 vehicle. And so for a total of 18 new vehicles. And I'll talk a little bit about the department's needs and why. In addition to the replacement vehicles, Admin Policy 7 requires, yes, sir.
Sort of a general question about this. The special equipment, you know, that the police need or the Public Works needs, et cetera, is that included in this price? Okay.
Yes. So we built all that in, and as a matter of fact, there's a schedule at the end of the staff report where we sort of break everything down, and I think it's packet page 43, and that's sort of the grand shopping list. So in addition to the replacement vehicles that we're seeking, we are also seeking to surplus 20 vehicles. So essentially, we're rotating the old vehicles out and rotating the new vehicles in. We're anticipating revenue for the 20 surplus vehicles at $30,800. We'll be selling them at public auction. That $30,800 could be higher, it could be lower. It just depends on what the market is on that day. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry to interrupt. Was there any discussion of, instead of swapping out, maybe just kind of pushing down?
Well, that's...
If you did a prioritization of the existing 9, say, that are requested, you know what I'm saying, right?
Excellent idea. That has been our basic practice over the last few years. And one of the things that we're trying to correct here is the fact that vehicles have been pushed down and pushed down and pushed down. And now in 2017, we're sitting here with vehicles in the fleet that were made in 2005 and earlier. And so we've got some old vehicles as a result of that push down. So what we're trying to do right now is revamp the fleet, and when it comes to that conversation with the departments on an annual basis, when we look at the fire inventory, when we look at the PD inventory, that idea of, okay, maybe we don't need to replace it, maybe we can use it for another function within the department, that's part of the conversation.
Right.
Okay?
Okay.
I'm just
that
bringing
answers
another...
my question. Thank you. And the only other question I had, sorry, at this point was, Was there a prioritization done? I did not see that, say if there are 9 requested, is there, like a top 5? Was there a prioritization given? And if not, could there be?
There could be.
And then was there a prioritization overall of everything was requested?
There was a prioritization as to what was funded by ERAF and what was funded by Fund 72. We're using fund, and we'll get into the ERAF part of this a little later, but we wanted to use the ERAF dollars, and it's about $473,000, to somewhat allow us to play catch-up and to fund those vehicles that, frankly, are a priority to the city. And so you will find that most of the police fleet, those changes, are funded by ERAF.
Okay.
And the tree trimming truck that Public Works uses. I'm also the city's risk manager, and I can tell you it's a good thing we have that function. So most of the police fleet and the tree trimming truck are funded by the one-time ERAF dollars. That's how I prioritized them.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir.
So I know you're going to show us some horror pictures later on, but
Yes.
how many miles, what sort of range do these vehicles have? I realize that some of them may not have high mileage and some may. But
We actually, so we've got the experts in the back, but I've also got some pictures of some odometers for you as well.
Okay.
So we'll start with the Pacifica Police Department. So the PD is requesting 9 vehicles. Currently, the Pacifica PD maintains an older fleet of vehicles, with most vehicles in need of replacement. The department fleet consists of marked emergency vehicles and unmarked vehicles. Half of the marked vehicles are overdue for replacement, some vehicles having well in excess of 100,000 miles. The second half of the marked vehicle fleet is on the replacement schedule for 2018. And just a few pictures here of one of the police vehicles. I hope you can see it, but in the upper left-hand corner, there's an odometer reading that says 105,480 miles. The picture on the right shows a very worn seat and very worn interior. The picture at the bottom is, we don't know if it started out gray and it's white now, or if it started out white and it's gray now. So we're still trying to figure that one out, but that's been with us for a while. For Public Works, on the wastewater treatment side, they're requesting 4 vehicles. And wastewater's new vehicles replace trucks that are more than 20 years old. You're getting to the sort of the push-down approach, and that's been wastewater's way of saving money, but it gets to the point where that fleet is suffering from severe corrosion because, the plant is right there on the beach. Additionally, the current trucks are not necessarily reliable and kind of low in output. All of the F-Series trucks that wastewater is requesting are more powerful than the current fleet. They give them more capacity. They also have dump beds, so we don't have our staff spending a whole lot of time unloading materials from the trucks because we've got dump beds. And that'll help us definitely when it comes to the workers' comp world. The new trucks, they meet California emission standards. They're more fuel efficient, so they're more powerful, more fuel efficient. They burn cleaner, and we're doing our best to reduce the greenhouse gases. And as we saw earlier today, Public Works wastewater treatment plant is open to hybrid vehicles for their sedans.
And was the director of planning consulted in terms of how this relates to our climate action plan?
No, I did not consult
Greenhouse gas
her.
emissions.
I will in the future. We just knew that this was our goal.
Yeah, I can add to that because I've certainly had that on my mind. And when we come to heavy equipment, there are not many options related to, hybrid vehicles or electric vehicles. For the smaller sedan vehicles, we'll definitely be looking at that technology to improve the emissions. One of the points that the last bullet up there makes is that a new truck is much more fuel efficient and emissions more clean than a 20-year-old truck. So at this point in time, the technology just isn't there for heavy equipment, and hopefully in the future it will be. But
Okay, thanks.
So here are some pictures of Public Works and the wastewater division's vehicles. So in the upper left-hand corner, we actually have a dashboard in one of the vehicles that's collapsed. And so you can see the shards of the dashboard there next to the steering wheel and the front of the dash, and the whole thing's just collapsed. In the upper right-hand corner, there is, under that license plate, is essentially rusted away. That fender is not there, and which is why you can see daylight there. Bottom, there is just an example of the corrosion that they're experiencing down at the plant and with one of their older trucks. Public Works Field Services is requesting one vehicle, and Public Works operates the city's tree maintenance program and street light maintenance program, performing maintenance on street lights and as well as trees located within the city right-of-way. There's one vehicle for the entire program. Some time ago, the truck that they used fell into disrepair due to old age and lack of funding. Public Works has been essentially renting a truck for about $4,500 a month or $54,000 a year, because even though the old truck fell into disrepair, this work needed to be done. And so Public Works is sort of trying to figure out, do we refurbish or do we replace? And so the issue was brought to the city manager and discussed amongst the staff, and said, given the investment level and the useful life variables of both options, the city manager recommends the purchase of a new truck. And to give you an idea of what the old truck looks like, that's what it looks like. So the other vehicles that we're requesting are vehicles for the North County Fire Authority, Planning Department, City Hall, and Parks, Beaches, and Recreation. So for the North County Fire Authority, they're requesting an F-250 pickup to replace a Crown Victoria and a rescue vehicle. North County Fire Authority has consolidated rescue equipment into trailers that can be hauled with the F-250 to incidents when necessary. The Planning Department and City Hall have two vehicles, and they're two Crown Victorias that sit in the City Hall parking lot. And they are in very, very, very poor condition. One of those vehicles is used for code enforcement, and the other is used as a sort of a general pool vehicle.
Are those former police vehicles?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
They are. And as a matter of fact, I believe one or both of those vehicles, I think the Crown Victorias, are a sanctuary for some of Pacifica's wildlife. And so there's no need for staff to actually go to the San Francisco Zoo when it's there for them to see every day when they...
So what
Yes, ma'am.
happens when those vehicles are needed and they're not used? They just, they get reimbursed from the city for their gas mileage, or whoever has to use their car for code enforcement?
I'm sorry?
It sounded to me like what you just said was that they're inoperable if they're being inhabited by local wildlife.
They're still operable, but barely operable.
They're not being used
They're being used.
by the wildlife?
The job has to be done, yeah. So
Okay,
this,
so they are being used.
they are being
Okay.
used, yeah.
Okay.
It's not the most comfortable use in the world, but they are being used.
Okay.
And then, so we're requesting the replacement of those two vehicles, and what we want to do is either lease or purchase fuel-efficient vehicles. So this actually is the city's opportunity, our first foray into hybrids and electric vehicles. So this one I'm looking forward to working with Public Works on to see what we can come up with. The planning director and City Hall staff were consulted, and everybody is very enthusiastic about this. And then last but not least, Parks, Beaches, and Recreation is requesting a new passenger van to replace a van that they've had since or was put in place in the year 2000. That van is non-functional due to age and physical deterioration. I think there's been a valiant effort to keep it running, but it just isn't running. So those are the 18 vehicles that we are requesting. Now, here are a couple of shots of the planning vehicle and the City Hall pool vehicle. Now, if you look up in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see that the odometer is blank. The car is on. You can see that the RPMs on the right dial are up and running, but the odometer still remains blank. On the right, you have the interior of one of the Crown Vics, and luckily we didn't catch any of the wildlife. And also bottom left-hand corner, there's also another shot of the interior. So for North County Fire Authority, the rescue vehicle that they would like to replace is this Beck fire engine. And as you can see, it's got, I think it's 393,000 miles on it. And Shane, is that right?
39,000.
39,000?
That's a lot of
Are
fires.
you kidding? No, I think it's,
I think it's 300.
I think it's
39.
39, okay.
Vehicle.
39,533, okay. So it's been with us, it was put in place in 1988, and been with us for that long, and so it's definitely past its useful life. On the right, there is I believe it's yes, sir.
Maybe that can be sold as an antique.
An idea.
eBay, you know?
An idea, yes.
Seriously, people like fire engines.
We've got,
That and the vintage truck could be the start of the fire museum.
There you go.
there you go, all right.
We're just full of ideas.
Yes, indeed. And so on the right, we have a Crown Victoria, and as you can see, we put the odometer reading there, 188, 369. Hopefully I read that right. And so all of these vehicles, except for the Beck fire engine, are on the surplus list tonight. Just due to timing, I wasn't able to get the Beck fire engine on the surplus list that's submitted for your approval, but I will have it before you when we do the surplusing again. And we may have an option at that point in time. But we wanted to let you know what North County Fire Authority was thinking. And so what we're seeking here is, again, the purchase of 18 vehicles, and we're looking for roughly $399,000 from Fund 72, which is about what we'd spend annually on replacements. But to catch us up, because in the staff report, I mentioned that there were 3 years that the general fund did not contribute to Fund 72 for replacement. And so while the 473 is not the 700,000 that was missed out on, it is a significant step in catching up. The 473 also, as I mentioned earlier, supports most of the fleet for the police and also supports the tree trimming truck for Public Works. And I'm open to any questions at this time.
See, I think Mike O'Neill was first.
Okay, I just have some questions here. I fully support, and I know the truck I'm most familiar with is the tree trimming because it's taller than the fence, and you drive by and it just looks like hell, you know. But I'm kind of concerned about roughly 25% of our projected ERAF money being spent before winter's over. I mean, because I know the ERAF money is what we've played around with for matching funds for grants, for seawall repair, overtime, demolition of apartments, et cetera. So that's the one concern I have about doing this. I also just wanted to double check, and I'm sure the answer is yes, but Palmetto is fully funded because that was some ERAF money, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and then we do have all the ERAF money we've needed in the past for matching funds for the various grants.
The ones for the seawall, particularly the one that's being proposed for 310 to 330 Esplanade, yes.
Okay, so all the money that we've planned on using ERAF for is fully funded and just kind of working its way through the system?
Yeah, in addition, I'd like to mention that I've been working together with Assistant City Manager Hines with regards also to the timing of the necessity of the money, because a project like that, seawall, takes, more than a year to construct. So we've been working together on that.
Okay, so you've just been watching the cash flow then also?
That is correct.
Okay, and then that's my biggest issue is probably just the percentage of ERAF that we're going to be using, because I mean, so far we've been getting manna from heaven for several years, but there was at one point the city actually had to write a check for ERAF back, and the roles were reversed, and then getting to. The next question would be, you set up a system, you said, about on an Excel spreadsheet.
Yes.
So that some city council down the road isn't going to have to replace, 18 vehicles at one point and then potentially more with next year's budget. So in your budget planning and building your budget, is this going to become a line item in there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, this schedule will be presented to you annually,
Okay.
and it should have, but I needed time to get it, I needed time to fix it. And so now that I'm comfortable with it, we will present a replacement schedule that allows us to live within our means. Now, what that may mean is that we may have to shift some useful lives by a year. We may have to, as Councilmember Martin mentioned, push down a vehicle to delay the purchase for a while. It may mean we have to look at financing as opposed to purchasing outright. May mean we have to look at leasing as opposed to purchasing outright. But we have a plethora of opportunities now, and that's exciting for me.
Yeah, so we won't have to run Dr. Doolittle's cars in the city council city hall parking lot. Okay, but I know in previous councils have balanced the budget by hitting the vehicle license fund, and I've always been curious as to is this like a bottomless pit? You know what I mean? And I'm kind of reluctant to do that because if you have a budget and you have to replace vehicles, I mean, a fire truck is, you and I were talking back there, is about $650,000 to $700,000. I mean, that's a tough nut to crack. And I was wondering, have you ever seen, or would you consider it good business practice that before you use the vehicle license fund to balance the budget, it would take like four people in the city council to okay that? Have you ever seen that, or is that something you would recommend?
I'd have to research that a little further. It's a prudent control, but I don't know if I could recommend that because it's a slight change in our practice, and I would prefer to do the research before I can recommend anything like that. But what we'll try to do is to make sure that the general fund can support its obligations. One of those obligations of the general fund is putting money aside for the vehicles that the general fund uses. And so, because what we have here is Fund 72 is an enterprise fund. It's its own private business, has its own assets, has its own liabilities, revenues and expenditures. It's its own business. It makes its equity or its money by allowing these other funds to use its assets. And when you use those assets, those funds have to pay. And when we're in a situation where the general fund and other funds are using the assets of Fund 72 and not paying, that's what got us to the point now, where we are now.
Basically, you use a cost center accounting type of thing, right?
Yes.
And a certain percentage of the sewer plant's operating budget is cost centered out to the vehicle fund.
Right.
Okay.
And so what we want to do going forward is, this is another refinement that's coming, is right now we're doing contributions based on the department. When those contributions should be based on the vehicles. The department shouldn't even play into the formula. It should be based on the vehicles.
The useful life of the vehicles?
The useful life of the vehicles.
Depreciated out?
You
Okay.
got it, exactly. And so that's the next step that needs to be taken, is that we need to pull these dollars out of the line items in the department's budget and just make it one line item in the general fund. And that's the contribution.
Now, I never realized that this was an enterprise fund and it had those restrictions. But my concern is that previous councils have looked at the vehicle license fund, since it had money in a pot of money.
Yeah.
That, you know, it was a piggy bank that we just kept taking a hammer to and breaking, you know. And that's where we ended up with like the $4 million shortfall in different funds, was borrowing money from each of these funds to cover an issue over here.
Yes.
And that's my concern, why I wanted to bring up like a supermajority of council to break the piggy bank.
I think I'd be happy to discuss that with the city attorney and the city manager, and that'll be something that we'll bring back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Sue DeGree.
Those were some of my questions, was how much of the ERAF money would be left, and what about staggering? But you kind of answered that you are going to be staggering.
So while we're on the topic, and Councilmember O'Neill, you brought this up too, I had a conversation with the county last week, and they indicated, in the staff report, I indicated we usually get about 1.6 to 1.7 a year. They indicated that we'll be in that neighborhood this year. And those dollars are scheduled to arrive next week.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Usually they don't come till March.
Wow.
People have been paying up early. I had one more. We're a coastal state, and so I was wondering if, because, you know, the whole California shoreline is coastal, is there some kind of squirt that these vehicles could have to keep them anti-erosion or something? Do they need to be rinsed off every morning, or, I mean, I was thinking of a wax type of a thing.
I'm going to turn that over to the subject matter experts. Mr. Ocampo, Mr. Martin?
The erosion obviously looks terrible, and I worry about my car every day.
There's no, I mean, the cars itself, as they are manufactured, they have some rust proofing in them. Unfortunately, it's not, it's a salt air, and even the activities that we have near the beach expose us to salt water. That's the reason why our vehicles deteriorate faster, much like our roads, you know.
I was just curious if there was anything we could tap into.
No, but it's a good practice, and that's the reason why we encourage our sedans to be brought to oil changers. They have this automatic car wash, and we have an account with them where we encourage the employees, or we remind the employees to take their cars, the city cars that they use, up to the oil changers to have it washed at least once a week. That's a good practice to rinse off the salt that is in the air and in the on top of the paint.
And waxing, I mean...
It's a regular wash, you know, that's what you need. All you need to do is keep on rinsing that salt out of the top of the paint so that it lasts longer.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Deirdre Martin.
So Lorenzo, sorry, Director Hines, you said, I'm sorry, Assistant City Manager Hines, you said, you said to us, are you, it's a matter of if you're comfortable with it. But you're the finance guy. Are you comfortable with it? That's a question I would have for you. I see what the recommendation is, but I will be the first to admit I'm not a finance person. So my first thought when I'm looking at this is, and then I'll let you answer, is this a case where we ask for everything possibly that we would want, and then maybe we negotiate and we dial it back a little bit, because I too am concerned about spending, you said 25% of the ERAF before our winter's over. So that was kind of my first thought, is like, well, should we discuss some sort of prioritization within this first year, and maybe a different strategy of pushing things down? And I know this, I probably should have brought this up earlier, but my first thought to answer your question, are you comfortable with it, is no. I would look at those nine police vehicles first and say, you know, and I hate to be that, you know, that council member, but.
If I can just chime in here. One of the alternatives that exists for the council is for us to go back and do a reprioritization, you know, in the upcoming budget for 18-19, there'll be another tranche of vehicle replacements according to the schedule. And we'll evaluate that in the context of the overall budget for that year, and we'll go through internal prioritization on how many we can afford and recommend. But the recommendation that we're making is these are the essential steps to play catch-up to get us to a point that we can kind of prudently look at that second tranche during the next budget year. But again, an alternative for the council is to direct us to say, you know, if a majority agreed to this, that, well, we're not comfortable until the winter's done, so we need to delay the purchase. And remember, the purchase process for these vehicles takes a while.
Right.
And so, you know, every day that we're not starting that process, we're trying to continue services with, as you saw, vehicles that are almost falling apart. But we could go back, we could do part of this, and we could go back and we could wait and see how the winter progresses, and then come back with maybe a bigger tranche, a bigger list of replacements to do next fiscal year. But the other point to keep in mind regarding the ERAF dollars is, as it was mentioned, there's sort of a cash flow variable in the ERAF dollars, because many of those projects are multi-year projects, and many of them are reimbursement grant based. So we spend some money, or we allocate some money, and then we dedicate it to a project, and then we get reimbursed through their hazard mitigation grant program, et cetera. And so there's this continuing flow. It's not like the $3 million in the current ERAF is gone. And so you spend a little bit and you get reimbursed some, and it kind of continues to flow. So the short answer is that, yes, we're comfortable with this recommendation, and that's why we're making it for these vehicles to really play catch-up at this phase in time.
Okay, and so my response to that would be, so we get everybody, we get all the vehicles up to kind of where we want to be, and then the next go-around is kind of where we would say, all right, maybe we would prioritize and push a few off, right? So this first round would get everybody up to standard.
It's not, again, it's not getting everybody up to standard, because there's a whole bunch of...
Catch up, pardon me.
Yeah, it's the catch-up. It's sort of, maybe an analogy would be, you got a leak in the roof, you need to repair that. And so
Right.
that's where you put your home budget first, is to repair the leak in the roof. And then the next time around, you look at, okay, well then, what's the next improvement project that we're going to do that's essential? Well, we got some cracking pipes in the bathroom, so we need to do those. Sorry for the analogy, but, you know, if that helps. So it's definitely a whole prioritization process for the whole fleet.
Right. And then the other question I had was for the fire rescue replacement. I see that's high mileage. And I just kind of was curious in terms of usage. Does the math play out in terms of how often this is used? Does it need to be done this year? Do we need to replace it this year? Maybe that's the one that we hold off on. Sorry to be a thorn.
No, sir, I can, great. Thanks.
Shane Lauderdale, Deputy Fire Chief with North County Fire Authority. So a few things are coming together here. The first one, as you saw, the mileage is very low on that vehicle, but it's 30 years old. So what you start to encounter when fire apparatus reach 20 years, it's very difficult to get replacement parts. And so your out-of-service times go up exponentially at that point. So that's one thing we're getting in front of. The other thing is a timing thing. We have, I think your direction through North County Fire Authority is that we're lean and meaningful. And part of my job was to look at all of our apparatus throughout the entire North County Fire Authority and determine how can we be more efficient than we are right now. And the mileage on that vehicle, I think, shows that that's not probably the best value for money. And so what we have done is try to use the opportunity with the 3 different departments that we're working with to buy a trailer, which Daly City has bought, that will house that heavy equipment. And now we don't have the need to replace a $350,000 rescue. But in order to get the equipment to the incident, we need a pickup that can handle that. And so it's really a timing issue to be able to have that vehicle now to make that next move.
Okay. I thought that number was pretty low to replace something that big. But, okay,
Yeah.
Thanks. All my questions.
Mike?
Oh. Is there a benefit to go, like a group discount or something, or quantity discount by buying them all at once like this?
Well, that'll be one of the options that we look at.
Okay.
You've got, Director Ocampo has got a very talented group of procurement folks that work in Public Works, and so if there's a way to get the best deal, they'll figure it out.
You make the buffalo jump on the nickel?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what we do. We normally contact the fleet manager for the dealership that we deal with, so we get the fleet pricing for the vehicles that we get.
Okay. Are you going to say anything?
No,
or-
I am, but finish,
Okay.
go ahead and finish up.
Well, basically what I was going to say was, in deliberation, is that I think a lot of this is a customer service issue, and our customers are the citizens. And, the police cars have to be able to go from 0 to 80 very quickly sometimes. And, the fire department, the specialty equipment, and the trees. The issues with the trees right now, every winter there's usually a tree that falls in Valamar that, maybe we needed to trim or whatever. So, I think I'm going to support this. My biggest concern is the percentage of ERAF and not having, enough to get through the long, cold winter. And if we have a lot of days like today, we might, regret that. But we also might not even finish, if it takes a long time to buy them, we might not even finish the purchase until April or May also. But you got to start somewhere. So I'll be voting yes for this.
Okay, thank you. So it would seem to me that just in general, the budgets are sort of a zero-sum game, and that if you could save money on vehicles, you could spend it on something else that you want. And I'm sure all the department heads and directors and so on are fully aware of this. And so when staff says, we've got really old vehicles, we need to replace them, and we're playing catch-up at this point on the vehicle replacement scheme. You know, I think they're serious. I don't think they're doing this just so they can have, you know, nice new vehicles to drive around in, because they know that, you know, there's something else that that they could spend that money on, but this has their highest priority. And so because of that, I will support this also. I have one more question about, and this is sort of off the topic, but maintenance. You know, you said the old tree trimming truck just sort of didn't get maintained very well for a while, and you know, that's just one example. But what kind of plans do we have for maintenance? Does the funding for maintenance come out of the same fund, and so on?
So where Fund 72 is the fund for the motor vehicle replacement, Fund 71 is the fund that we use to support our maintenance expenditures. And Fund 71, also an internal service fund, just like Fund 72, contributions are made from user departments, as we do in 72, but those contributions are made into 71 for the repair and maintenance of the vehicles that are being used by the sort of the vehicle enterprise group.
Okay.
And again, Director Ocampo, I believe he has a group of very talented mechanics that keep our vehicles in the best repair and in the best shape that they can. I think they've done an admirable job keeping vehicles that were in place in 2000 and 2005 still on the road.
Can I ask, do we do most of our own work in the maintenance area on these vehicles?
Yeah, that is correct. Although for the tree truck itself, there's a special inspector that comes on board to certify whether the boom is safe and all stuff. That particular tree truck that you saw there is a 2004 tree truck, and given the rust that has already gone through metal, you know, and rusted it out, it has been deemed unsafe. That's why we're not able to use that. Another picture that was shown to you shows the condition of the box that we have behind the truck. The box itself is where the cuttings get shredded and whatever like that. You would see that there are like really huge gaping holes. And then what our guys have done is we put in plywood just to make sure that we're able to haul the cuttings from the trees every time a tree is down, especially during the winter season.
Thank you. And that brings up another issue. You mentioned that that the department had to rent another truck, and that's obviously much more expensive than buying your own truck, and so any more comments? If not, somebody want to make a motion?
I make a motion that public comment.
I have no cards. Is there anybody that wants to comment? Seeing none?
Okay. Before you do make a motion, I want to make a little adjustment in the city attorney and I, in looking at the language of the resolution. It's sort of written in the past tense, and so the minor alteration to how you should make the motion is to recommend actions on 1, 2, and 3, and then as a second action, then adopt the resolution, because the resolution implies that the council already approved actions 1, 2, and 3, if that makes sense.
So we just need two motions.
Okay.
First motion would be to approve 1, 2, and 3, and the second motion would be to adopt the resolution attached.
Okay, I move that the council adopt resolution number 1.
Approve
First,
3 in the recommended action.
first approve 1, 2, and 3, and the recommended action is,
And a second.
Second.
Okay. Vote. And that first motion passes 4-0.
and then you said the second one?
Adopt the resolution.
Okay, adopt the proposed action, adopt the resolution as stated, attached.
Second.
And there's a second, and vote again. And that also passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Drive safely.
Have a good ride to the airport.
Yeah.
It's not too late.
Okay. The last item for consideration is item number 7, appointments to the Emergency Preparedness and Safety Commission. So we can have a little staff report from the
Thank
city
you,
clerk.
Honorable Mayor, council members. At the October 9th, 2017 council meeting, staff was directed to research and return to council at a future meeting for consideration of amending the existing ordinance to increase the commission's regular members from 7 to 9. A revised ordinance was introduced at the council meeting held on November 27th and adopted at the regular council meeting held on December 11th, 2017, effective 30 days from the date of adoption, which would be January 10th, 2018. The city recruited applicants for the Emergency Preparedness and Safety Commission. This opportunity was published in the Pacifica Tribune, the city website, and Nextdoor. The city received 5 applications. Interviews were conducted by the City Council on September 27th, and the list of applicants is attached to the staff report. The Pacifica Municipal Code Section 8-1.03 states, "The Emergency Preparedness and Safety Commission will hear appeals, and such appeals shall be processed in accordance with the provisions of Section 113 of the California Building Code." Section 113.3 of the California Building Code provides that the Board of Appeals must consist of members who are qualified by experience and training to pass on matters pertaining to building construction and are not employees of the jurisdiction. Current Emergency Preparedness and Safety Commission members all have some personal and/or professional experience with the building permitting process. Experience ranges from some members who have decades of professional experience in this area to some who have experience with the process on a personal level involving projects at their private residences. All commission candidates were queried and have at least some experience with the building permitting process involving projects at their private residences. The open commission positions are due to 1 expired term and 2 newly created terms as follows. Jean Salisbury had an expiring term as of October 2017, and the 2 newly created positions with the revised ordinance, those terms will also expire in 2021. The appointment for the expired term will be effective immediately. The 2 newly created positions may be made at the January 8th council meeting, but will not take effect until January 10th, 2018. The selection process, staff recommends that the council appoint 1 applicant for the expired term and 2 applicants for the newly created terms. In order to facilitate reaching a consensus, staff will circulate to the council members a list of the applicants for this commission. Staff will then ask each council member to place check marks next to the names they would nominate for appointment to the Emergency Preparedness and Safety Commission. After collecting the list from the council members, staff will then tabulate the number of nominations for each applicant and report those applicants securing the highest number of nominations. Upon receiving the report from staff, the council will then make a formal motion to appoint these selected applicants to the Emergency Preparedness and Safety Commission. So I have those here for you.
So, Kathy, do you want us to differentiate between, like, put an I next to the, if we're voting for one for the incumbent?
You don't have to, no.
Or just
No.
mark 3?
All the terms
You will
will,
have the opportunity to deliberate and determine that
Okay.
after you get the tally.
So the term that expired in 2017, October 2017, how long does it go?
that will be a 4-year term, which will expire in October of 2021.
Okay, so they all expire
They
at
will
the
all
same
expire
time?
at that time.
Right.
Is this the last item?
Committee appointments always clears the room. You ever notice that? Except for Tiger.
Had his hood on and freezing.
Oh, was it cleared before that? Oh,
To report.
Just have our one faithful audience member.
yes.
Right, but, thank you. Okay, so Jean Salisbury, Brett Hicks, both received 4 nominations. Gary Kong and Mary Ellen Carroll both received 2 nominations each, so there's a tie there.
So now you should just determine, somebody can make a motion on who they want to appoint to fill the expired term, and then who they want to fill the term, the newly created term.
They're
One motion that you can make.
all equivalent, though. They all expire
Oh, the first.
in
the first
October 2021.
But one
Takes effect immediately.
immediately, and the
Oh,
others does take
okay.
effect in 2
Okay.
days.
Deirdre, I think pressed her button.
Yes.
Yes, I pressed a button. My recommendation would be that Jeannie Salisbury is the slot for the incumbent. Is that the
Second.
correct title? And then I'd like, I mean, while I have the floor, I'd like to see Mary Ellen Carroll. You know, my reasoning for that is I really like her experience, her current experience as an emergency for the Public Utilities Commission in San Francisco. She serves in the field of emergency management response there. And I just thought that was highly appropriate, given our current laundry list of emergencies, not just locally, but nationally.
So is that one motion for one?
I wasn't making a motion. I thought we were just
I thought I-
deliberating. Were we deliberating?
We all thought you were.
I thought I
always
heard a
deliberate.
second.
That was a really long one, sorry.
We can always deliberate.
Here,
Oh, there was a second,
well,
pardon me.
yeah, I'll
Well,
make a,
there was a second, but
I
if there
thought you
wasn't a
were- I thought you were,
motion,
yeah.
then,
Sorry.
you know.
I'll make a motion to appoint Jean Salisbury as the incumbent and Breck Hitz as that, and then we'll discuss the other one.
Because there was a tie.
I'll second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Deirdre seconds, and so we vote. And that's 4-0, so Jean Salisbury and Breck Hitz are appointed. And now we'll discuss the third. And
And then vote, right?
So what I said, that was my input.
right, okay, and Sue agree.
Oh, no, that was my second. I was going to second, yeah.
Okay. Mike, did you have anything to say?
That was from my motion.
Okay. So is there any comment, any further comment, or shall we try it again? Okay, well, let's try again.
The only comment is, I mean, I know Mary Ellen Carroll. I think she's very competent, and I like her and everything, but she didn't come to the interview about this. And yes, she has a lot of experience in emergency planning, but it's more in the management level, while Mr. Kong was more on the street, like, you know, first responder, active shooter tactics. He was a speaker and instructor at the libraries, Nevada Governor's Conference. I think police academy, security training, I just think he has more street cred, so to speak. And it's not against Mary Ellen at all, so.
Okay.
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
My only, I guess, response to that would be as a liaison to the emergency preparedness. I think I was looking at it in terms of the experienced folks that we have on the committee or the commission right now, and what we need. And I think we have a lot of tactical, boots on the ground, experienced commissioners there, and that's why I was kind of looking for a different perspective from that more management level.
It's valid.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys have anything?
Yeah, I support Mary Ellen Carroll for precisely the reasons that Deirdre articulated. Yeah. Although, you know, as is usual with these appointments.
Let's make it 10 people on.
Yeah, right.
Well, it has to be an odd number, so we'll have to make it 11.
He should have done that.
Maybe 21.
Yeah, 21, yeah. You know, and
Okay.
stuff and everything, so. I mean, we could wait until Sue Vatterlaus gets here, and then we'll have an odd number if we want to.
Can I make another motion, or?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Okay, I'll make a motion to fulfill the third spot with Mary Ellen Carroll.
Is there a second?
You can second.
I'll second. Please vote. And that passes 4-0. So Mary Ellen Carroll is the third appointee to the Emergency Preparedness Commission. And
That's all, folks.
we are done. Thank you very much.
I remember my first meeting of 2017.
Be there, be square.
Yeah.